gentlemen, how he's doing? He's having a good time so far?
Yeah.
Excellent. I nearly never made it here tonight. It's not because I didn't want to be here or anything, no. To be honest, I've been suffering with toothache for the last couple of weeks. And anybody else that has toothache, you know what it's like, it's an absolute agony, so it is. And I thought to myself, I'll just ring the dentist, it's easy, I'll get an appointment, cut the fillings and that'll be all sorted. What I didn't realise is though, is that if you've not been to your dentist for 2 years, and you ring them up, that they dump you, like some long distance relationship. Can I get an appointment please? It's no use, Stuart, it's us. It's just not working, mate. We've tried texting you, we've tried emailing you. You're just no answer, mate, so you're dumped. So I thought, what am I going to do next then? So I thought, I'll ring every dentist in a 60-mile radius of where I live and I'll try that out. And all these dentists has got the same name. Your smile, my smile, your dentist, my dentist. Now what I've realised is that there's no a lack of dentists in this country. What there's a lack of is dentists that are willing to take on poor scumbag NHS patients like myself that can't afford to pay for your treatment. And the arrogance is shining out them, and they need to take a leaf out their own title, My Smile, because I've never met a bunch of more miserable bastards. So hang it up, and this is how it went. Good afternoon, My Smile. Chantel speaking, how may I help you? I says, are you taking on NHS patients there, Chantel? And I'm quite sure I heard her laugh, and she might as well have said, don't be so fucking stupid, Mr. Sharpe. We don't take scumbags here. We only take people that are minted, that can pay for their treatment, but we do offer an emergency extraction service here. I says, go on then, Chantel, we'll have a roll of the dice. How much is it for an emergency extraction? She says, that's between 150 and 450 pounds, Mr. Sharpe. I says, Chantel, I think the line's breaking up there. I think you get the figures wrong there. She says, no, it's between 150 and 450 pounds for an emergency extraction. I says, I'm not looking to get extracted for a war zone in a Chinook helicopter here, Chantel. I says, I think I'm going to give this one a miss if you don't mind. So anyway, there I was 2 days later. I thought, well, I'm a big hard Scotsman, I can take this. How wrong was I? The next thing I'm lying in the living room floor and I've suddenly found God. Jesus, God, help this toothache. Please, I can't take it anymore. I've even turned Muslim. Praise Allah, somebody do something here, I can't take it. And then I remembered that there's the other thing you can do, and that is ring the 111 NHS Emergency Dental Helpline. Has anybody ever rung that? Have you rung that? Well, you'll understand what I'm about to say here then, madam. The conversation, it's more like an interview to see if you qualify to even get a dentist. And the stupidity, it doesn't build up to stupid, it's there for the start. And the questions you get asked are unreal. And if you don't mind, I'd like to share that interview questions that happened to me. So I rang up, and this is how it went. Good afternoon, NHS 111 Emergency Dental. Doreen speaking, how may I help you? I says, I'll give you 3 fucking guesses, Doreen, to why I'm ringing the NHS emergency dentist. I says, my foot's fucking killing us. Is there anything you can do for my big toe here? It's an agony. She said to me after that, are you calling because you're in pain? I says, no, Doreen, I got your phone number off my mate. He says your fucking banter is unbelievable, so what's the crack, Doreen? And then she says to me, there's no need for the sarcasm, Mr. Sharpe. I says, well, you fucking started it, Doreen, no way. And then it just got to the absurd, really. What's the temperature? What temperature? I says, it's about 16 degrees outside there, Doreen. I said, I'd still recommend wearing a jumper in the morning though, because it's still a bit chilly. To To which she started to get angry. No, the temperature in your face, Mr. Sharpe. I went, oh, right, aye. I said, well, put it this way, Doreen, it feels as if my head's in a vice here and somebody's tightening that vice. And then they've poured petrol over my face, and then they've set it on fire. I says, and then just to add salt to injury, they've fucking hooked a car battery up to my teeth. And they're sending electric shocks through my jaw and my eye. Is that the temperature you're talking about, Doreen? Yes, it's that temperature, Mr. Sharpe. I says, well, it's very high, Doreen. It's very high. And then she says, have you taken anything for the pain, Mr. Sharpe? I says, yes, Doreen, I find that long walks in the countryside and listening to classical music seems to help it. I says, what the fuck do you think, Doreen? I said, Doreen, let me put this in layman's terms for you here. I said, just imagine the local junkie, Doreen, the local smart grab, and he's selling all his furniture. And he's at the stage where he's offering to go down on his knees and suck you off for a tenner. I says, that's the stage I'm at here, Doreen. I need fucking drugs. I says, I've took every drug off my neighbours that they've got in their cabinet here. I've had every drug ending and all. I've had cocodamol, I've had tramadol. I says, and guess what's working, Doreen? Fuck off! To which Doreen replied, and I'm making this up, I think you qualify, Mr. Sharpe. Would you like to make your way up to the hospital? And the dentist will see you up there. Now, I use this term loosely, and I've none against the NHS before we get any further, but it didn't really seem like a dentist. It more like a kind of butcher shop vibe to it when I got there. And a big cheery man came out with a big belly and a pinion covered in blood, and he went, good afternoon, Mr. Sharpe, how can I help you? I says, I'll have a pound of sausages and 2 pork chops, please. He says, you are a funny fellow. He says, get yourself in here. And when I went in, he just pushed me right down into the chair, strapped me in, gave me 2 jags in my mouth. And then that's when it hit me. I thought, wait a minute here, he's not even x-rayed me or fuck all. How the fuck does he know where the pain's coming from in my face? And he just started taking teeth out of it. Pulled one up. Is the pain gone there, Mr. Sharpe? I said, no, it's still there, it's still there. And he pulled another one up. And this is a true story. So the end result is, people, I've had 3 teeth out. And I've got a hole bigger than Bonnie Blue's father in the face. But every cloud has a silver lining. 27 quid. That's all it was. 27 quid. I'll tell you a wee bit about myself. I was brought up in the 70s in a wee pit village in Scotland. Times were a bit hard. Was anybody else brought up in the 70s and 80s? You look as if you were, sir. Maybe even before that. Anyway, the worst thing about growing up in the 70s, you that do know this, was there was no power showers or anything like that. No. The Sunday bath. Do you remember that, sir? That's the only day you get bathed in our house, was a Sunday. And everybody had to share the bath water. And the pecking order was oldest to youngest in our house for the bath water. Now that wouldn't have been too bad, but I was the youngest of 6. So you can imagine the state of the water by the time I got in the thing. There was all sorts floating about in there. There was big chunks of dead skin still with plasters on it. There was big long pubes, I didn't even know whose they were. There was toenails. There was dead seals. I once saw Greenpeace protest that our blood water was that contaminated. It was disgusting. Mind you, it was even worse if my brother had had a wank in the bath before I did it. I was like, hey, what's that here? Is that conditioner? I'm going to try some of that in my hair. Unbelievable shot was. That wasn't the worst thing in our bathroom, there was actually worse than that. We had a cloth that hung over the side of the sink. And everybody get washed with that cloth Monday to Saturday. The top and tail cloth, we used to call it. The top and tail, I'm quite sure he's all used the top and tail cloth. Or as I like to call it, the fanny flannel. You see, by the time my mum and my 4 sisters had washed their fannies with this thing, well, it smelled like a fishmonger's welly. So, in fact, it was that bad, the seagulls were trying to smash their way in through the bathroom window to eat the fucking thing. Hey, get yourself in here, lads. I think there's a whale in there, I can smell it. The 70s were mental, they really were. The 70s were fucked up. And we all know about the weirdos, the TV presenters and all that. I had it a bit closer at home, me. You better strap in for this, so, because this is, put your seatbelt on for this is a doozy. We had a guy in my hometown get caught shagging a cow. Genuine story, this. And I often say to myself, how do you get caught shagging a cow? How does that happen? Did his wife walk in on him and go, Daisy, you slag, that's my husband. There's the cow laid there with one arm behind the back, suspenders on, and about 10 bras covering its udders. I don't know. And how do you get with a cow? How does that happen? Was he already on some sort of like weird animal Tinder? And he was scrolling through it one day and he was like, I'm fucking sick of dating squirrels, so they're only interested in their own nuts. They're not even interested in my fucking nuts. Here we go, here's a cow. Loves long walks and eating grass. That'll ding dang do for me. I'm going to have a shot at this. And how do you pick that cow? Do you take it out for a meal first? I don't know. Do you take it to the movies? There a wee shitty dad joke for you there, sir. You can take that one home with you if you like. You can tell that later on. You can tell that on. Anyway, I digress. Here he was up in the stool on the field. He's got the fucking trousers down. He's took the pants down. He's moved the tail to the side. And then he's sunk at him. And he's getting at 6 now, banging this cow. Now, I don't know what's happened. I wasn't there. Now, either he's either got to the vinegar stroke and the guy's legs have gave way and he's fell off the stool. Or maybe the cow wasn't enjoying it. Maybe the cow just was like, get the fuck out of us. I don't know what's happened. I genuinely don't. But he fell off the stool and he broke his leg. And the farmer came along and he was still in the field with a broken leg, so he phoned the police, obviously. And the cow gave a statement because it was traumatised. And we were on the pub talking about this, me and my mate. And Big Dave was like to us, he says, do you know that guy shagging the cows? I said, yeah, I did. That's mental, man. Why would you want to even sleep with a cow? Who even thinks of that? Then we've got this guy that drinks in our pub. His name's Weird Brian. And he sits in the corner of the pub on his own. And he's always full of sexual innuendo and he's leering at the bar staff and making dirty comments and looking down women's tops and that. Every pub's got a creepy bastard like that, isn't it? And if you don't know who that is in your pub, then it's probably you, sir. So anyway, for the corner of the pub, I heard this Weird Brian say to me. Weird Brian for the corner of the pub says to us, the thing is, Stuart, if you're going to shag a cow, you don't want to take that cow for behind, mate. He says, what you want to do is you want to get yourself right up the front of that cow, Stuart. He says, you want to grip it tight by the head so it can't let go. He says, and you want to stick your cock right up its nostril and shag its nostril. To which I replied, replied, and I'll never forget this, sir, as long as I live, the reply that man gave me when I said, "Why the fuck would you want to stick your cock up a cow's nostril?" To which he replied, "So's it can lick your balls." Thank you very much, everybody. That was Stuart Sharpe.